Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Maisie and today we are doing my March reading wrap up. I think that all but two of these books have featured in reading vlogs in the last month, so I will leave those linked in the description below so you can go and check them out if you want to hear more in-depth thoughts and feelings on any of the books as I read them. But in this video we're just going to be doing a fairly quick wrap up. Oh, so I guess I should start with how many books I read. In the month of March I read 8 books and I also have one book which I have decided to a DNF, which I'm going to talk about as well. So let's get into it. I don't normally go through the books in order, but I'm going to this time because I did hit a reading slump partway through this month and I feel like that's important to factor into some of my thoughts and feelings on some of these books. I'm actually going to start with the book that I DNF'd because I actually started this in February, kind of had it on my mind that I would try and pick it up again in March, but I just didn't want to. I'm over it, and that is Addicted After All. I started the Addicted series years and years ago, and this is where I got up to. I think last year I maybe read Thrive. Yeah, I think I read Thrive last year, which is the book before this. I kind of enjoyed it, but I just didn't feel compelled to pick up the next book. So I've had this on my physical TBR for ages and I actually don't own any of the books after this one, which I'm very happy about because yeah, I'm deciding to DNF this series. It's not that I think it's bad, but I just don't care. And at this point there's so many books in the series and there's so many other books I want to read that I've just decided I'm going to DNF the Addicted Calloway universe. And I know that will make some people very sad because loads of people love this series, but it's just not for me. And I think especially in this book, I just wasn't liking it. I didn't like the romance. I wasn't having a good time and I thought, you know, why am I making myself read this? I will say, of all of the books I've read, I liked Hot House Flower the most. I think Reich and Daisy are my favourite couple from this universe, but I don't love them enough to want to carry on and read this whole series, to be honest. So this is the Addicted Calloway series by Krista and Becca Ritchie, which effectively the whole entwined series follows 3 different couples. I think there's also another like bonus book that follows another couple, but basically we have 3 sisters, the Calloway sisters, and their partners that we follow in these books, and they are famous, they are in the public eye, and specifically Lily and Lo, who are the first couple we get, and all of the Addicted books are Lily and Lo's books. They both suffer from addiction, so she is a sex addict and he is an alcoholic, and we're kind of following them battling with those addictions. I don't know if this is wrong of me to say, but I just got bored of the back and forth progress that they were making. And I know that maybe that is very realistic, but by this point, I just don't care anymore. I just don't want to read about it. So yeah, that is the first DNF of the year, I think. Oh no, that's not true. I DNF'd a book in my Reading Dark Romance for a Week video as well. So second DNF of the year. Okay. And then I'm going to get into the books that we read in my Reading for 24 Hours video. So we have Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. This is a dark romantic comedy, I think it's classed as, and we basically are following our 2 main characters who are serial killers, and they have a bit of a competition with each other because they basically kill other serial killers and bad people, and they have a competition with each other every year where they're basically racing and working against each other to try and kill a serial killer first. This was fun. I know loads of people absolutely loved it. The romance wasn't all that for me. I think in the first half of the book I really liked the romance and then it got a little bit boring, but it was a really fun time. Like, it was quick and easy to get through. Obviously I read it in my Reading for 24 Hours video, so I kind of had to sit and read it for a long time, but it was a good one to read for that because it didn't really require much brain power. There are some very disgusting things in this book though, I will say that. Anyway, I need to bring my laptop closer because I cannot for the life of me remember what I rated any of these books. My memory is like a sieve, honestly. Okay, so I gave this book 4 stars. I think maybe I would give it 3.75 or 4 stars. It's not anything that had like a big impression on me, but it was just a fun time, and yeah, I would recommend. I'm not a dark romance girl, but this didn't really feel like a dark romance. It felt more like a rom-com, to be honest. So yeah, first book that we finished was Butcher and Blackbird, and next I read a book on my Kindle, and that was The Teacher by Frida McFadden. This was her newest release, and obviously Frida McFadden is a mystery thriller author. This is the 3rd book of hers that I've read. Yeah, I think it's the 3rd. I read The Housemaid first, and then I read Never Lie, and then I read this one, The Teacher, and I loved this one. It was so quick to fly through. It had me gripped, and the ending, I just hadn't seen that coming at all. I think it was so well done. It was a fun time. I just had a great time reading this, and I gave it 4.5 stars. So yeah, I definitely recommend if you've not picked up any of Frida's books, please do, especially The Housemaid or The Teacher. I think those are her best two that I've read anyway. So we have two perspectives in this book. We have Eve, who is a teacher at a school. She is married to her husband, Nate. And then the other perspective that we follow is a student called Addie. So Addie was involved in a scandal the previous year at school with a male teacher at the school, and that resulted in that male teacher being, I was going to say expelled, but he's not a student. He was fired, I guess. I don't actually know if he was fired or he just kind of had to leave. I'm not sure. Can't remember. Anyway, but people don't like Addie because of this. They don't fully believe her story. And especially Eve doesn't like her because she was friends with this male teacher, and in the current year Addie becomes one of Eve's students in her maths class. And yeah, it's a thriller. I don't really want to say any more about what it's about because I don't want to give any spoilers, but it was just so fun. It was such a good time, such a good thriller, and as I said, the ending, I didn't see that coming. So yeah, 4.5 stars for The Teacher. Next we have Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh, and I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars, and I do not give out 5 stars very often. In fact, I can't remember what the last 5-star book I read was. Literally, I can't even think of one. I hardly ever give out 5 stars, especially anymore. Obviously, this is a very popular series, especially at the moment. It was very popular a while ago, and then I think it's been republished, and now loads more people seem to be reading it again, and most people that I've seen that are reading it are loving it. And I was so glad that I finally picked this up because I've been interested in it for a long time, but I just wasn't sure if it was going to be for me. I will say the books are very long, and they are also very character driven. They're not like super plot driven. So in Binding 13 and Keeping 13, which is the second book to this, we are following Johnny and Shannon, and they go to a private school in Cork in Ireland, and Johnny is a very talented rugby player and Shannon is a couple of years younger than him, I think, and she comes from a very difficult home life, and the two of them kind of straight away have a connection, but there are a few issues that mean that it's not that easy for them to be together. I don't think this is a book that you need to like necessarily know what the whole plot is. It's more of a vibe, and the vibe is heartbreaking, slow burn romance. I think you either love or hate this. I absolutely loved it. Yeah, as I said, gave it 5 stars. I am actually currently reading Keeping 13, so we will see if that one lives up to it, but I've seen that people that love the first book seem to love all of the books in the series. I then read Betting on You by Lynn Painter. This is the last book that I read in the 24-hour reading challenge, and this is Lynn Painter's newest, actually no, she has a new book out after this one now, which is an adult romance, but this is her newest YA romance. This was like easy and quick to read, but other than that I didn't really like it. I didn't like the romance at all. I literally didn't care about the romance, and I think if you're reading a romance book and you don't care about the romance, that's not going to be good to you. I think on Goodreads I gave this 3 stars, but I actually would probably give it like 2.75 stars, which is a shame because I do really like Lynn Painter's books. Actually, I would say they're very hit and miss now that I think about it. So I've given 2 of her books 5 stars, that is Mr. Wrong Number and Better Than the Movies, and then the other 2 that I've read is this one, Betting on You, and The Love Wager, and both of them I literally haven't cared about at all. They've been like 3 stars or below. And I think I like her writing, and it just depends on the romance that's in it, and this was one that I just didn't care that much about. I suppose I can say that at first they don't really get on, and they meet a few times when they're younger, and then they meet again when they're a little bit older, like older teenagers, I don't know how old, 17, 18 maybe, and they end up working at the same place and become friends. So then we're getting on to the books that I read in my finishing every series I'm reading video. So the first one was Iron Flame. This is what started my book slump. So it took me about a week to read this, which when I was reading it, I was thinking this is taking me forever. But now that I think about it, it's not that bad because this is obviously quite a long book. It's a fantasy book, takes a bit longer to read, but I just felt like it was taking me so long to read. I felt like I was kind of forcing myself to read when I was reading it, and yeah, I don't know. Overall, this was disappointing to me. I don't think it was bad. I just want to say that. I gave it 3 stars, okay? I think it was okay, but I don't think it was bad, and I don't think it was good either. It felt like it was rushed. I've not even said, this is the second book to Fourth Wing. Sorry, I'm just assuming here that people know what this is, but if you don't, this is the second book to Fourth Wing. Yeah, it just felt like this was written in a massive rush, like maybe Fourth Wing was getting loads of hype, and then, you know, the publisher basically said that she needed to get the second book out there ASAP, and it just felt like it was rushed. It wasn't very well planned out, thought out, not that much happened in it. It felt like a filler book. The romance was frustrating, and I know that's loads of negatives, and I've just said like I don't think it was bad and I didn't hate it, because there were some things that happened in this, but just in general the pacing was all off. However, the way that it ends, I'm excited to see what will happen next, and I do still like this universe and these characters, but I just think there are a lot of flaws, especially in this book. I think there were flaws in Fourth Wing, but it was just such a fun time that I didn't care. Like, I just had a great time reading it, and I loved the romance in Fourth Wing, whereas this time I didn't love the romance and the flaws were more annoying. Yeah, that is Iron Flame. The next book I read was Hopeless by Elsie Silver on my Kindle. This is from the Chestnut Spring series, and the whole series is on Kindle Unlimited, which is how I read it. This is the final book in the series, and it follows Beau and Bailey. It's kind of like fake dating, arranged engagement trope. It was okay. I didn't really care that much. I don't know if it was because I was in a reading slump, but again, this took me way longer to read than it should have, considering it was just an easy romance. I just wasn't that into it. It definitely didn't get me out of that slump. In fact, I think it put me more into a slump. Overall, I gave it 3 stars. I think it was fine. It was a romance, but it was nothing amazing. It didn't blow my socks off. I didn't like feel emotionally connected to it particularly. Next, I read Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. This is the second book in the Shepherd King duology. This is a dark fantasy gothic romance vibes. It has a really cool magic system. I spoke about the first book in last month's wrap up, I believe. So yeah, I'm glad that I got to read this not too long after, because usually I wait a long time to read like the next book in a series, and I hate myself for it because I can't remember what's going on. So I didn't leave this one too long, and I did remember what was going on, so that was good. I loved that we got Elm's POV in this book. However, the romance fell a bit short for me in this one. Also, I think there were a few plot holes that just could be because I wasn't absorbing the information properly, but I just felt like when I finished it, a bit confused about how some things were resolved that had been quite a problem in the book. Anyway, I think that I settled on a 3.5 star for this book. It says 3 star on Goodreads, but it was definitely more than that, so I think it must be 3.5 stars. And then the last book that I read in March was The 7 Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and I was thinking that this would be a really good book to pick up to get me out of a slump because it's quite short, people love it. However, I did not love it. I think something that I've learned about myself, and I already knew this about myself, but I didn't know that this book was this, is that if a book is insta love or like any kind of insta love vibe, I'm not gonna like it, and that's how I felt with this one. I felt like it was very insta love, and I just didn't connect with the romance. Like, I just didn't see where their connection was coming from. Yeah, it's a shame because loads of people love this book. This book is a romance with some magical realism. So basically our main character, Clementine, she lives in an apartment, and it's basically a magic apartment, and sometimes when you walk into it, you actually go back 7 years in the past. And one day when she goes into this apartment, she meets Ewan. I think Ewan is his name. She meets Ewan, and he's there, but he's living 7 years in the past. They basically have a romance, but then obviously when she leaves the apartment, she's back in the real world. And yeah, I don't know, it was the like funnish idea, but as I said, it was just way too insta love for me. This one is another 3 star for me. So that is the end of my wrap up. I'm sorry, I feel like because I'm in this slump, I'm not really feeling excited about any of these books, and I also have really bad brain fog. I'm filming this video way too late, to be honest, because I literally can't remember much about a lot of these books. So I'm sorry if any of it was unclear, or if you kind of just are getting a bad vibe from me. I'm in a bad reading headspace. I'm hoping to be getting out of my reading slump soon, because reading slumps are the absolute worst. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I would love to see you in my next video. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, hopefully the next time you see me, I will no longer be in a reading slump. Bye.